Thank you for joining us for this episode of Inside Town Hall. I'm your host, Madeline Shields. The City of Sioux Falls has many partners that it works with to conduct the city's business, but one of the most important relationships is with Minnehaha County. It's imperative that the county and city work together to complete an array of business that is important to the residents. Joining me today is City Councilor Miranda Basye, and her guests are Director of Planning and Development Services, Jeff Eckhoff, and County Commission Chair, Dean Karsky. Thanks for being here. Talk a little bit about why is this partnership so important?
Thanks, Madeline. I first have to start with, I first got introduced to these gentlemen when I spent some time working for a regional economic development nonprofit. And through that experience, I realized how intergovernmental systems, different entities, different municipalities have the opportunity to partner on so many things. And so when we look at how people live and work around our area, there are so many people that work in Sioux Falls that don't live in Sioux Falls or that live on our outskirts. And we have the luxury in Sioux Falls where we're growing by thousands of residents every single year, which then means our boundaries are growing. And if we're not having proactive conversations with the counties around us, we really miss the mark on being able to be proactive in how we serve our community members. So I'm really excited to dive into all the things today, and I'm going to try really hard to not get super long-winded about all of the different ways that I really appreciate these two gentlemen and their years of service and their expertise, and I feel like I get a great opportunity to learn from them too.
Sure, and there are lots of partnerships that the city and the county have to collaborate on, facilities, programming, land use. Do you want to talk a little bit, whichever one of you wants to go first, just talk a little bit about how does this all come together?
Yeah, I think, and Councilor Basye really hit on it, that as fast as everybody's growing, not just us, but our surrounding communities, whether it's transportation routes or law enforcement, and we just need to work together to be the most efficient and especially most effective for our residents. If there's a fire, we need to be there as quickly as we can. If we can help our rural fire departments, the bottom line is we save lives, we save homes. And so those services are critical, and the collaboration with Minnehaha County makes so much of that possible.
Sure. And there's so many shared facilities. So we can talk a little bit about what these shared facilities are when we're talking about police and fire and sheriff's office. Would you like to talk about that?
Sure. One of the big ones is the law enforcement center, basically on the county campus. The sheriff's office is on the third floor, and I think the police chief's on the second floor. And the police rally from there every day. That's where all law enforcement is led from. Of course, it's across from the jail, but the law enforcement center is just a great example of collaboration between government units.
And whenever you see there's a police, especially if there's a big issue, right? You're always going to see Sheriff Milstead and Chief Toom and our state's attorney, Danny's going to be there as well. I mean, it's just a really well-oiled, well-collaborated machine between those three entities when things come together. Chain of command, all that works very well.
And because you have criminal investigations that everyone is working on, if it's police and it's could be police and fire and the sheriff's deputies and the sheriff together. Can you talk about how did it get to be this connected? I remember back in the days when I was a reporter, everything was in separate places.
How do they get connected?
Yeah.
Yeah, in law enforcement, try to figure out the best way to answer this question. Even the SWAT teams is a joint effort between the police department and the sheriff's office. The crime labs, the investigations, the joint drug task force. How does that happen? It's from the relationships. Sheriff Milstead was a Sioux Falls police officer for a number of years before he became the sheriff. So there's a great working relationship there.
If I could chime in on that, one of the things that I think is really helpful in the conversations that I have with the police chief and talking about the state of our safety and things that we're working on as a community is that exchange of kind of information and ideas to be able to be proactive when we zoom out of looking at not just the city, but then the county and then the state, and that information share to be more proactive of, hey, here are things that we're starting to see, how are you addressing it? And that way it's a lot less reactive, and so our community members can be safer, and I think just we can respond so much better.
I think it's important to note too that if somebody's arrested in Sioux Falls, where they go is to the county police department. So it's, the sheriff's office runs the jail, and if somebody's arrested by a Sioux Falls police officer, they become the responsibility of the county. So having that communication and that relationship is critical.
Mm-hmm. And then we have the Metro Communications 911 Dispatch Center. That became a huge project, and everybody loves it now because it's become a better place to work, a better place for people to be able to do what you talked about, Director Eckhoff, about saving people's lives.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was, and I'm sure that Dean can speak more to the history of it, but I know it had been in different locations and in the county courthouse, and it, as we expanded, the space wasn't available for them to expand the way they needed to. And so when we built the public safety campus, it was a natural that they go out there, they're in a great environment, they have room for growth. They're now city employees, so that was a process of onboarding them. And I think we've been able to really help with their culture and their stability and their ability to grow. And I hear really good things about it, and I know when you talk about public safety, it all starts with communication. It starts with dispatch, it starts with the 911 calls. And so the fact that it's more secure, it's more redundant, all the things that that site offers is just the foundation of it, I believe.
Yep. And the city built the building, the county put a lot of money into the technology and equipment. I serve on the intergovernmental board that still manages Metro Communications. At one time seemed like a good idea to spin them off, have them as their own entity. We brought them under the city. I tell you what, it has been amazing with morale, personnel, turnover has been reduced drastically. They are nearly full-time or fully staffed, which for years they weren't. So it's been a great program, and again, another example of collaboration. Just because we had it one way doesn't mean we don't have to try to improve, and that was a great improvement for the whole community.
Coming onto the city council and starting to learn about all of these collaborations, were you surprised at that, or do you think any of your fellow councilors have been?
I had the luxury of having some experiences where I started with more of that kind of metro mentality. I don't think I realized how deeply ingrained some of those relationships are. So I knew that there was some of that crossover. I knew about the joint jurisdiction type decisions, but then I had the opportunity to sit on the Urban Development Commission and talk about all of the kind of road networks and transportation for the region, and that helped me open my eyes to, holy buckets, there are so many more things that we don't realize when you're just doing everyday life of where things go and how things are interconnected. Property taxes are another example of what goes where and what services do my property taxes actually support. Well, a big portion of them are things like the sheriff's department and like all of the other things that are provided to me and my constituents as a member of the city of Sioux Falls that are not necessarily housed by City of Sioux Falls government.
Commissioner Karsky, you come from a little bit of a different perspective because you were on the Sioux Falls City Council for, was it 8 years? 5 years?
Yes.
And then you became a county commissioner. Can you talk a little bit about how did that give you a different perspective than maybe some of the other commissioners who really didn't have that experience with how the city of Sioux Falls runs?
They're both very different. The county's governed more by state statute, where the city coming under a charter, and the city council is really responsible for policy level and budget, of course, where the county, as a county commissioner, you get into administration, personnel, which the charter strictly forbids city councils from being involved in. So, but having that perspective and understanding and knowing, where the lanes are, where's the boundaries, really helps to know who to talk to and the individuals that make decisions, and we're at City Council, County Commission, we're all part-time. We rely heavily on our department heads and staff that are there 24/7. So.
Do they look to you and say, okay, you call them? You're the one who knows them. You call them.
Fortunately, Gerald Benninga has been on the County Commission for a while and a former city councilor. So, and our county administrative officer, Tom Greco, also worked for the city council as their, give me the title, the city clerk. Thank you. Yes. Yep. So so we do have a good working relationship with them that way.
Yeah. Let's move to land use and zoning, because the city and the county and Sioux Falls is they say the biggest city in Lincoln and Minnehaha counties, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so as Sioux Falls continues to grow, it is going further into the county. Let's talk a little bit about how that land use is divided up, how that zoning changes.
So state statute allows for a 6-mile joint jurisdictional area between municipalities. So as we go out, obviously as they get closer and closer, then or equidistance between the two municipalities. And so of course we're there with a lot of these communities. And really what we're trying to do is work collaboratively with the county, and we have great cooperation there, and with the different cities to prevent mistakes or prevent things that happen in between the two jurisdictions that cause problems later on, right? So we have a comprehensive plan. We think this should be a residential development, but if the county allows hog confinement to go in there, obviously it disrupts the pattern and all those type of things. And so it's really trying to make the best use of it, that we don't have these huge lots with big homes that are hard to serve and inefficient to serve with city utilities when they finally get there. It's always kind of a push and pull, because you have landowners that want to develop and they want to sell their land, but they don't have the city utilities yet, and they're not scheduled for a year, so you always have to work against that. But it's just trying to be the most efficient, and then also that allows both municipalities to plan ahead for infrastructure and where we're going to meet, and so that when we make investments, we know that this is going to be the land we have to serve, and this is the line. And so it allows both municipalities to do better planning and better budgeting with their funds.
Who decides that? I mean, is there a committee that looks like, okay, yes, they want to develop a new neighborhood, it's getting out into the county further? Who?
So the county doesn't allow basically urban sprawl. We don't want to have those neighborhoods outside of the city. But conceptually, joint zoning is a great idea. I personally have issues with it at times, so Jeff and I will probably disagree. And
we'll arm wrestle now.
We have time for that.
Yeah, but what it comes down to is, to me, property ownership has very high priority as far as what should I be allowed to do. And as long as it's not creating a hazard, a nuisance, or disruption, you should be able to a large extent, do what you want to with your property. But if somebody wants to, let's say, build a golf course within 2 miles of Sioux Falls, they got to get on the Sioux Falls Planning Commission and the Minnehaha County Planning Commission agenda and get approval by both boards. And then if somebody wants to appeal their decision, then it comes to a joint meeting of the Sioux Falls City Council and the County Commission. Where my problem is, the City Council is having governance over somebody that they did not have a chance to elect. So to me, that's a little problematic. So I always try to defer to the ownership and property rights when it comes to these types of things, because I think property rights are paramount.
And
go ahead.
when you say that, just so people understand, if you don't live in the city, you can't vote in the city elections. Is that where you're?
That's exactly, yeah. And
Right.
yeah, the city council's deciding on what you can do, even though you didn't get a chance to vote for them.
Because you live in the county, you're not in the city limits.
Correct.
Yeah. We just want to make that clear for
Yeah.
the viewers.
Yeah. And I think 98% of the time we're in agreement with the county planning. There's a lot of good communication, but there are those instances, and I certainly agree with Dean that there are those tough calls when they're on the edge, and they've got this land and they want to develop it and they're ready to go. But we have to tell them, because of where the drainage basin, we're not going to be there for 20 years. Well, it's hard for a person to wait 20 years for that return. And so there's always that discussion back and forth, and it does get to be those tough questions of who has the right to do what with their own land.
And if both bodies don't agree, it dies, it fails. So, yeah, it's tough.
Well, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk about the link and how the city and county collaborate on that, as well as quality of life issues. We'll be back in just a moment.
I'm Dr. Cole Van Bakeren with Falls Community Health. Do you have bad seasonal allergies? Did you know if you wait until the symptoms start to take your allergy medication, you're starting them too late? You can help prevent seasonal allergy symptoms altogether if you start taking your over-the-counter allergy medications 2 to 4 weeks before the symptoms normally start. Save yourself from the itchy, watery eyes and runny nose this year and take your allergy meds early. For more information on allergy medications, contact your doctor or see us at Falls Community Health.
Welcome back to Inside Town Hall, where we are visiting with Councilor Miranda Basye, and her guests are Jeff Eckhoff, who's Planning and Development Services, and Dean Karsky, who is the chair of the Minnehaha County Commission. Let's talk about the link. If people don't know what the link is, do you want to explain it just a little bit?
The link is a place where there's a lot of partnership with law enforcement, where folks who maybe are having a tough time finding a place to sleep or have some substance challenges can go and get some support. Get a fresh pair of clothes, maybe get a sandwich, sleep it off type of situation. But then also they have the opportunity to get connected with other support services and get plugged into some of our other really great service providers in the community. And I do have to say I had the opportunity to do a ride along with the police department and get kind of exposed to some of the caretakers there. And we just have some really wonderful people who devote their time, talents, and career to the link.
Great. And so let's talk about, how did this come about? Because it's not very often that you get a city and a county and the hospital systems to join in to help the most vulnerable people in the community who are facing addiction issues and mental health challenges. You
could spend 30 minutes, a whole segment doing this one. I've been involved in the link since before it was formed, going back to conceptual and design. I'm on the link board right now with the mayor and the president and CEOs of Sanford, Nevada. How did it come about? You know, we had a sobering and a detox unit in the jail, and it was still a jail. I mean, it just was not, it was deplorable, to use the term of one of the social workers that came with us to help figure out how to set up the link. The link is an amazing facility, as Miranda said, for the individuals that need it. It is doing so well that other communities are looking to emulate it. Rapid City has reached out to us. They want to know more about our bylaws, our board, how we're governed. It's not perfect, but we're dealing with a very difficult segment of the population, and we're doing our best to help them. It's interesting because year over year, from this year to last year, our numbers are up 30%, which is a huge increase in visitors to the link. And it can be alcohol, drugs, mental health, and we're just trying to get them to the next place. The hard part about that is, unless they really want to go to the next place, it's hard, you know, so we got to give them the opportunity to realize that, you know, the path I'm on is not a good path. So that's the whole thing about the link, linking them to the next place and where they need to go.
And for the have the city and the county work together on that, it took a little bit to get it going, but it is kind of a lifesaver for a lot of people and a lot of people's families that struggle with that.
The city, the county, Sanford, Nevada are not only organizational but financial partners in this. Just to talk about, I mean, to build on what Dean was saying about the struggle, I think the record for one gentleman was almost 500 visits before he finally accepted treatment. And so, in those 500 visits prior to the link, he would have ended up in a detox jail in the jail, the cell, and then as soon as he sobered up, he'd be back out. Whereas here, He sobers up, he gets offered services, he might not take it. Like I said, the record was nearly 500 times. Just to give you some perspective, I got these numbers from Michelle Treasurer. In September, the link had 342 triages that they did during that month. And of those, 20% of them would have otherwise landed in jail. And then about 73% of that 342, and you certainly are aware of this, were unhoused.
Right. Yeah, so in people who struggle with mental health and addiction really aren't criminals, they just suffer from a disease. And so that how does that save jail time?
Yeah, at $120 a day to bring somebody into the jail, and have them spend a day or two there. But even more is if they have to be taken to a hospital emergency department, they have no insurance, they're in there, they leave, that just costs the hospital $5,000, and they're probably not going to get reimbursed for it. So we're working with on a lot of different levels. I want to give credit where credit is due, and God bless Mayor Tenhaken, because if he hadn't stepped in and said, hey, we've got the facility here, this wouldn't be where it is. So Mayor Tenhaken really helped with taking it from concept to here we are. So thank you.
Yeah, it's been a real passion project for him, you know, and it also, you think about the police time that it saves, right? And so now with the advent of some of the street teams, Midwest Street Medicine and the tribes and all of the work that the ambassadors are doing, they can now have a place to take people that isn't jail and doesn't require the police to intervene, and so it saves on those resources as well.
Sure.
We're talking about resource saving, but I also think it's a different kind of care and it's a different kind of connection that these people need when they come to the link versus going to jail or versus engaging with law enforcement or going to the ER. Those all serve really great purposes for those services, but it's a different kind of support when you're dealing with those diseases that then you have to choose, okay, I'm ready to get help. So I think that's been an important piece of being able to serve people the connections that they actually need instead of kind of just putting them wherever we have a place to put them.
Sobering up in that environment versus a jail cell, way different experience.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay, and let's turn to some of these quality of life issues. We have museums, we have libraries, and those are collaborate city and county together. Let's talk a little bit about the Siouxland libraries.
Libraries are such an important piece of our community, and I'm a big proponent of libraries, literacy, and education, especially because my spouse is an educator. But we actually had the opportunity to talk about the ways that in this year's budget cycle, the way that all of our library systems work together, and that we as a city can support that also exchange of materials.
And just the resources that are available through that collaboration, having it spread throughout the entire county, the traveling bookmobile, the ability to get out into the communities and just share that. Commissioner Bleinberg sits on the board. That's just been a fantastic arrangement between the county and the city with the libraries.
Is it just limited to Minnehaha County and the city of Sioux Falls?
It is.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. There are branches that we serve Lincoln County residents that live in Sioux Falls. But yes, it's just the county. And then it was in 95, Alicia provided these, 95 when they merged, the county and the city merged the library system. And so in the communities that we serve, they provide the building and we provide the resources, the materials and the staffing. And of course in Sioux Falls, we own those libraries as well. Just some numbers that Alicia provided, that we have 5 libraries, of course, in the city. And then we city circulation last year was 1.2 million pieces. County circulation was 174,000. Walk-in visits, the number of people that came into our libraries in the city were 700,000 and 140,000 in the county. So the types of numbers. And then of course there's the bookmobile too that makes a stop around the county.
Yeah, my kids love the bookmobile when that used to come out to the neighborhood. So it's great memories for that. And then the Siouxland libraries, the Siouxland Heritage Museums. We can talk a little bit about how that works together.
You bet. When I was on the city council, there was a great need for a new central storage location. We got that built finally. The hall, Irene Hall Storage, or I'm trying to remember the exact title. It's up there by the Sanford Pentagon. a great facility. We had so much stored in the old courthouse museum that there was concern about stress on the structure and just with the amount of stuff that was in there. Yeah, so I mean, there's the museum, the Pettigrew Museum, the old courthouse museum. We've got the facility up north. It's so many different opportunities for people to check out the history of the city and the county and the state.
The staff are great. Whenever we have a need for old photos or to research something, they're on it, and they just do an excellent job.
We've got a couple minutes left. We're going to talk about the regional landfill. How does that work? That's not just the city and Minnehaha County, but that includes others as well.
Yes, so that, the regional landfill, and I have to also say Donnie Cooper is wonderful, who manages that over there, but it's really a great opportunity to just have one kind of centrally managed facility so that we're being mindful of all of our land use all over the region. But I will maybe defer and see your history with the regional landfill, because I don't have as much of it.
You know, it's funny when you talk about the history of the landfill and where it was out by Ellis at one time, then it got moved out there. I know from talking to Director Cotter, there's like, what is it, 70 million cubic feet of dirt. I mean, it's just an amazing amount of dirt that's been moved, and that facility is going to go out there for probably 50 years. And it is a regional facility. We've got, you know, people from Turner and McCook and, you know, all the various counties that come, Lake County, and it's shared in a very broad perspective. So it's encouraged by the federal government through different programs, but whether it's a landfill or a wastewater treatment, these types of things are just best if we can collaborate and work together. We can do more with less, and that's what the landfill does.
And in the city manages the landfill,
Correct.
is that correct?
Correct.
Right.
And there's 5 counties and I believe 32 communities that participate.
Okay. Yeah. And if you need compost, that's the place to go because it's free and it's fabulous. I always say that when I get
Noted.
So
I like
noted.
it.
All right. Well, thank you all for being here, and thank you for all of the collaboration and explaining it to us, and for all of your time. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Miranda.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Miranda.
Thank you for watching. If you want more information about what's going on in the city of Sioux Falls, go to siouxfalls.gov. We'll see you next month.